and gentlemen, hello and welcome. It is Patch Notes Man, and I've come to the Overwatch building. It is over there up the top to read some live patch notes off. Actually, guys, I'm here to check out the Echo, which is the new hero. We've got a bunch of exclusive interview content and a bunch of exclusive gameplay to show you guys, so I hope you enjoy the video. All right, guys, let's talk about Echo. So, just had the chance of playing a pretty extensive playtest, and it's a crazy hero. Now, I need to talk to the man who designed the ultimate, and I need to why? Why?
Because why not?
Yeah, it is one hell of an ability.
It's an ultimate I've actually wanted to do for a really long time. It's actually got a weird history to it where it's like I really wanted to do a couple things actually really early on in the game. One was deflecting abilities, which Genji got real early.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of deflecting Zarya ult and stuff like that's great. And one was cloning and duplicating abilities and heroes, and it went through a bunch of really early paper designs, and some of them were so crazy I still don't even know how we would have ever tried them. One of the ideas was use less of an ult, more of a normal ability. Imagine you can use a normal ability to steal a single ability off an enemy and not the whole kit, just one ability, and then you can use it on other heroes, get another ability, and then you're some weird hybrid where you have two different characters' abilities. And it was
I thought it was going to be that when I seen the Origins trailer. I was like, oh, the whole thing about she sort of learns by copying people in a way. I was oh, it's going to take abilities, and then it was just no, just become the hero. I was what? That's mad. What about abilities that you may have used that you may have tested that you haven't used on the hero? What kind of ideation did you go through to get to?
So she went through a lot of stuff, like I mentioned that stuff. Well, that was more of a paper design. One thing we actually tested was she had an ability, again, we're going with the very Echo theme, duplicating and everything. So she had an ability actually called duplicate at the beginning. It wasn't the same thing, but the way it worked was a normal ability, and you actually made a clone of yourself that was in backwards in time slightly. So it would duplicate everything you're doing, but just slightly back in time. Or it would catch up with you, so it was following what you were doing.
But it copied what you'd done back in time, and then just sort of played it out again.
Played it out, but it was right behind you, so it was only a second or a little less. So it was pretty interesting. It was a little spammy because it felt it was cool, but then it kind of felt I feel most of the way feedback was I feel most of the way I use the ability is I hit it, and then I just pop around a corner and start throwing a bunch of projectiles. Yeah. And because it's kind of unaimed because it's in the past, or it catches up with you before it shoots. So if I run up and shoot and then it runs up and shoots, that second shot's not really aimed because the positions are all different. So it felt a little spammy. It was I'm just shooting tons of shots over here, and it feels a little lucky to get a kill. I was this is cool visually, but that gameplay is not actually that great. Plus she actually had her bombs at that time, so you would throw two sets of bombs. It was it was just okay, I felt at that point we'd have to have the damage of the bombs, but then they're only good if you have the duplicate. It was just maybe we need to rethink this. This isn't really working.
Well, we just had a chat with Geoff, and Geoff said that Echo, hated is a strong word, but is the most buggy hero or the most annoying hero. But D.Va was before.
D.Va was.
And you might possibly be the man that came up with the idea for both. So you might be the most hated man here.
That's true. But I also came up with the easiest to make a hero, so it all balances out.
Yeah, true.
Like you said, D.Va was, and still kind of is in a lot of ways, one of the most buggiest heroes, and then Echo's we're still working out the bugs, actually, we're not even done. And then combining the two, because now you can copy D.Va both in pilot and in mech, and it's different depending on which, it's just madness. And we're constantly finding out stuff a gameplay engineer, Derek Mulder, is working on this, and he's just I swear it's daily comes up. It's there's some new thing. We didn't think about this edge case. I was oh my god. I actually was literally thinking. I'm scared to tell Gary this is a producer, but I was literally thinking at one point halfway through, maybe this wasn't worth it. I don't. Is this gonna is this a rabbit hole that I don't realize how deep this goes yet? But we stuck with it. We're hammering them out.
She has a lot of challenges as far as just trying to catch all those edge cases.
Yeah.
Especially around spawn rooms and just all these scenarios backfilling when someone drops out, and how do we handle that if you're cloned?
True. Yeah.
So there's just a lot of those things that we're trying to work through. But I think despite some of those bugs that come out of the complexity of her ult, everybody has so much fun with her.
Yeah.
She is the fantasy of that hero was kind of worth working through all of those bugs and edge cases.
Obviously, it is a bit early to talk about balance. This is a early build of her. She's going to change on PTR, and she'll change all over the place. But where do you see her sort of fitting into the game? Now, I know we've got you've got owl meta, you've got meta's just what is the meta, but where do you see her? What type of players do you see using her? What type of effect do you think she'll have on the game?
I think she's hyper mobile, obviously, but she's a little bit burst mobility. She doesn't have her flights or all her mobility is. She doesn't like wall climb or something like that. So if her flight's down, she's it's like ferreting on the ground basically.
Yeah,
you don't really have it.
You feel kind of like lost when you're on the ground, sort of thing.
Yeah, you have to sort of like plan your routes knowing that you're gonna have these little bit of dips and downtimes where you don't have your flight up. The uptime on it's very high, but there are some downtimes. But that said, she's extremely bursty. She's one of the most highest burst damage heroes we have. When you consider you're sticking bombs to somebody and then they're about to take a ton of damage, but they haven't yet. And then your allies, they're really bright, so your allies can see them and throw extra damage at them and try to. It's like a free call out of like this guy's. It's like people say 1 health, 1 health. It's like that, but visually because they're about to be at 1 health.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed like from playing her, like I very quickly went into sort of like almost if I was playing Genji, I'm spamming shurikens. All I'm trying to do is just charge my ult. As soon as my ult's ready, I'm ready to go. Yeah. But the difference is, it is kind of like Genji where you can flank around the sides and you're spamming the damage in. It didn't feel like reliable damage. I guess close range. It was obviously I'm not a projectile player, so it's hard for me to aim. But it didn't feel like if I was playing Pharah, I felt like in certain situations I would do more damage in that situation. But it sort of was fitting into a playstyle of like long range spam, waiting for the ulti, and then I'm going to clone their main tank, and I'm just going to rush into the enemy team. And it's that like, have you guys seen a lot of that kind of play?
I think that's like certainly like layer one of just good play is like trying to pick their tank. Just because tanks have a ton of health, so you're going to give yourself a ton of health immediately because you get the full health bar. You don't go to the health that they had, you get the full health bar of that hero. And tanks have really impactful ults. The only downside is you can get killed pretty easily as a tank because if you kind of have to get close usually. Orisa is probably the tank that, and maybe a little bit of a Sigma that can stay back a little more as a tank.
Yeah.
But like, it's a little like all-in play. Like we see a lot where cloning Reinhardt, because you can clone while you're flying. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
So you fly up above and you clone somebody short range and you just fall onto them.
So this got me. So I wanted to clone Zarya, and it was on Route 66 on top of the saloon. I'm flying around and I'm like 90% ult charge. I'm spamming away. Right. I get my ult and then I instantly clone the Zarya, but I'm on top of the saloon. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like running towards like, please, and then I'm like beaming a barrier, and I'm like, I've got no charge. Yeah. So like in the training range, where I was instantly charging the Zarya, and I'm like, whoa, look at this, I've got a free ult every time. It was a bit different.
It's different when you're actually playing. Yeah, people are trying to kill you, and they're blocking your shots.
It feels like that moment where like you're going in, flying into the fight, trying to clone in the fight. That's almost like the skill, which is very dangerous.
Yeah, there's a little bit of time when you have the confirmation up for the hero. Yeah. So you can like confirm or not confirm, but you get it ready so you can confirm the hero, and then you can get better position before you actually confirm.
Yeah. So I was just
so that you're maximizing that time. Yeah.
Ah, that's good. That's good. I didn't realize that. That is good. That is good.
I found myself because I was in the same situation where I just confirmed, and then I was like, oh, there's nobody around. I can't build my ult and take advantage.
Yeah. You do feel like a little pressured, like, oh man, I gotta do damage. I have 15 seconds, and it's not quite 15, I don't think anymore. We've tuned it, but it's definitely like you see the timer ticking down. And you're like, I must generate ult. If I don't get at least one ult, it feels like a waste.
Right.
What about Overwatch League then? How do you think she could affect Overwatch League?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think she benefits so much from coordination beyond even many other heroes, like calling out obviously any kind of like dive comp where you're targeting single heroes, she's gonna be amazing, and plus her mobility is really good for dive. But even beyond that, just like calling out who you're gonna clone or having plays of who you're gonna clone. But it's interesting too because your clone targets are based on what the enemy comp is. Yeah. So they have a little bit of control over who you clone. Like if I think Tracer's gonna be insane to clone. She's super good. If you're a really good Tracer player and you can clone Tracer and generate like 3 or 4 pulse bombs, you're probably gonna win that fight if you stay alive during that. But at the same time, it's like if that ends up being the thing, the clone Tracer, if they don't have Tracer, you can't clone Tracer. So.
But then the question becomes, why not just play Tracer yourself anyway?
Well, that's the thing we talked about originally. We were making this hero a lot, and so it's funny if you talk to Kaplan. So we have a little bit of a dividing line here where he thinks being able to use multiple ults is just completely crazy and super OP, and we shouldn't do it. And I'm in the opinion like, let's just try it. We can pull back in if we need to. And part of it was that exact argument is like if I clone Tracer and I get 1 ult, but I had to generate my ult to become Tracer to get the ult. I could have just played Tracer, gotten an ult, and thrown it.
Yeah, and it's like over the time span of just generating normal pulse bombs, are you still getting the same
number and impact? So it has to kind of be better than you're cloning in some sort, at least the potential to. I mean, you are getting an extra life bar. There are some other benefits to it, and you do get to potentially stack heroes, like if you're playing some sort of mirror comp in OWL or something like that. and you have a tracer, you could clone their tracer, and then you have 2 tracers. That's something you couldn't do normally.
Yeah.
So there's some other edge cases, but I do feel like because of exactly that statement that it needs to be a little.
I feel like you'll just see some really great strategies that's very situational, trying to capture a point, and there's that last push, and about like who makes the most sense at this moment.
I was saying to Scott that if you had your ult and you're rushing back to, I don't know, Lighthouse or Milios or something, and they've got a Winston, you can grab the Winston and then just start priming them on the point. There's like little things like that which seem quite like little nuances to the hero, which I think is pretty cool. Like it's just, I can't believe it duplicates heroes results.
I mean, even beyond the ultimate stuff, I mean, as sort of Geoff mentioned, that like some regular abilities can be really game changing, like Baptiste, Immortality Field, or Mercy Res. Like somebody gets picked and a key push you're in, maybe the last minutes, and you decide to grab Mercy instead and res your guy and keep going. Yeah. And you're running with 3 healers temporarily, but like
in some of the playtests we found that there were those moments where having a 3rd healer for this last minute to just like hold on was really crucial.
We've seen it go. It's like 3 healers and 3 tanks is pretty big. So being able to manipulate the 2/2/2 in a different ways.
Yeah. Why the decision for the beam attack? Because I felt like it's like a short range hit scan beam, which does a lot of damage to barriers, but I was spending a lot of my time over like way out of the fight,
That's exactly why.
And I'm like I'm beaming, but it feels like I don't know when to use the beam sort of thing. Yeah. Although I was getting some kills with it, with the extra damage it does when below 50. It's four times extra.
Yeah, 4 times. Yeah. It goes from 50 FPS to
200. Yeah.
At least
so
right now. We might change that, but that's how it's
current. But like, I felt like if I was using the beam in that scenario, I was really, it was like a last ditch thing. I'm like, oh.
Interesting. So I think, I mean, kind of, you touched on it. Like the reason for the beam is to have this kind of mobility. If your range is too high, you can just fly out here and just shoot tons of damage. So the beam is something that is really high reward, but it does pull you in a bit. So you are flying in, getting close, and there's like the beam just has to be powerful enough to be rewarding to be worth putting yourself in danger.
Yeah.
But she has so much burst damage. What you can do is be on the ground, not even flight yet, throw some stickies on somebody. If you land them, it's a little bit like Genji. Then you can dash in, try to get the beam kill on that, and before you can get healed up. And
you throw 4 sticky bombs, and if you land 3 of those and then hit the beam, like you can wipe most of the lower health pool players really fast.
In fact, if you get behind like a Ryan or something who's got a shield up, and you just stick them all in the back, and maybe a couple left clicks or whatever, you just got to get him to half, because once you get him to half and start beaming him, he can't ignore that. He's got to turn around. Someone's got to stop you, because you're just going to kill him. So there's a lot of like those kind of pressure situations you can create, but it does require you to get a little bit closer with that beam, and I think that's that sort of design where you're like, I could stay back and just be less effective but very safe, but the real play is to get in close.
So which Overwatch League players do you think would be great with her?
Well, I think first and foremost, anybody who's flexible, flex players. I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you're like, man, I could have cloned that hero, but I'm not good with it, so I don't want to do it. So it's like, great that OWL players are, I mean, at least very passable at the very least with every hero. Very, I don't know. That's gonna be the quote now, right?
No.
They're just passable. They're not as good as me. No. No. I mean, obviously they're good, but at that level, I think just being good at hero is probably not even good enough. You need to be excellent. Right? So it's hard to just be like, I'm going to swap to Widow and try to counter snipe if I'm not a good Widow.
It's kind of like when we see with the hero pools that come in now, which have just made Overwatch League fantastic. I mean, I love that. But you start seeing players like tracer specialists, soon whatever, they start playing the hero that they've always played. Like in what scenario would they pick the hero which could become the hero that they're great at?
Right.
When they may as well just play that hero. Like, it might be. I think we might see some really cool strategies with her. But I don't know. I guess like with the fast rate of hero pools at the moment, with every week coming in, there might not be enough time to sort of, kind of get good with the hero in a way and get the impact from it.
Yeah, and I'm super interested, as I said before, sort of about the meta side of this whole thing, because you can only clone enemies. Yeah. It really changes. Like if it's a mirror comp, you're choosing what Echo can become. Whatever your lineup is her options. Yeah. And if they have an Echo, because it's a mirror comp, then it's only 5 options to choose.
They've probably got a May though if she's back. It's like 2 Mays. Oh no, 2 Mays. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, so they've only really got one choice, I guess. Well, I don't know.
If you're cloning DPS,
there's so many different scenarios there. That's the problem, isn't it? Like you just don't know what's going to happen. Like the Winston example.
Exciting,
like
I see a lot of damage. You have your damage player who is also really great at a tank, and
Yes,
then switches to the tank on the clone
Yeah.
or on the duplication, and is able to push through and utilize their tank skills. So I think that would probably be one of the roles I think we'll really see in OWL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is pretty cool. She is definitely a projectile player's dream, as you say. Like Flex DPS are going to play it. I like DPS wise, I play Soldier and McCree most of the time, so I was having a bit of trouble aiming at primary fire. You could kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
It does feel like Genji's Shuriken, just with a much smaller spread.
Well, yeah, but the fact that it's a 3-shot, it's almost like a mini shotgun, but it's pretty tight on the spread.
Yeah.
It's another little edge towards, like, you can do this at range. It's not as effective, because even though the spread's pretty tight and you can hit potentially all 3, especially on bigger targets at range, you're not going to get 3 headshots. So,
Right.
If you're close, though, and you hit like a tank, you can get all 3 shots on the head. So, like, we've actually tuned that spread quite carefully, and it will probably be more tuning in the future, too. But to try to, her range is super important in where she plays, and we've pushed it too far sometimes, so she plays too far back and it's too effective, and it feels like you're just lobbing bombs and blowing people up. And you're like, well, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, why am I even using this beam? And then you push it too close sometimes, and the shotgun's too spread, and like, this weapon sucks. I can hit anybody with it. So it's like, it's very very tight tuning on that. But I'm sure we'll have much more tuning to do when she gets live.
Yeah, I think the beam was something that has gone through a lot of tuning, as you mentioned. Like, people are trying to use her mobility and flying around, and then they're using that beam from far distance and not finding as much value. But when you see, especially if you see a bunch of the support low on health in your Echo, like, you're the cleaner in that role, and you just come in and you just wipe out the back line.
I actually find it fun too when you're like, obviously if you're in comms and everyone's very aggressively calling out targets, so you can who people are low. But even if you don't, it's actually kind of a fun little game in itself, just visually, because you can't see health bars unless you damage people. So, but you can see who's getting wrecked. Like, somebody's getting focused. You're like, I'll just start beaming them, and it's almost like calling my team, like, hey, if you guys hit this guy, he's dead. Like, just get him to half. That's all I need you to do. We're good here. It's kind of a fun, kind of combo move in that sense with your team.
I think also the impact on barriers, right? Like, she's really great against barriers.
Yeah, so. Which it does seem like kind of an interesting decision, because barriers obviously have been recently reworked anyway to be weaker. So, why do you think that you needed the extra damage to the barriers?
So actually, it's funny. Originally, she wasn't designed like, we need this anti-barrier hero. Originally, it was just incidentally right, this also works in barriers, and I was like, well, do we want to keep that? And we had to discuss like, we could change this so it doesn't work away on barriers, but it's like, we left it in. We're like sort of liking how it was playing in a lot of ways, and it's actually interesting because it's this channeled attack. There's a lot of characters with barriers that can manipulate, like, I take my barrier down.
Turn around.
So if I'm Ryan and I have full health, my barrier is weak. If I put my barrier down and you're beaming me,
it's nothing.
It's nothing. Like, I don't care. Yeah. But I'm a care that I put my barrier down. Because now my team might get shot, or I might get shot.
Anna behind cares if she dies.
But like, there's some decision, like, do I keep? Obviously, if you're a Rissa or something, you don't have a choice. Your barrier's on the ground. It's painful for you. But even Sigma can recall it, move it, or something like that. So there's actually a lot of play with it on the barrier side too. But it's very dangerous to make the call where I'm like, well, I'm just gonna eat this beam because I really need this barrier up right now, and like, okay, you're getting a lot of damage to this thing, so it better be worth it. But again, they also have to weaken it, so it's not like you put the barrier up and she immediately crushes it. It's like it has to be taking a bunch of damage in the
it's as you said in the presentation we had earlier, when the barrier, you get the visual damage effect on barriers. That's when that's the go time for the beam.
The first cracks are at 50% health, and the second cracks, because there's a second layer of cracks, and that's at 25% health. But the first one, whenever you see any cracks, basically, you're good to go.
You guys are always great. Like, I remember when Sigma came out, the heroes come out, and obviously Sigma had problems, but when Sigma came out, it's such an incredible, like, the impact straight away when you start playing the hero, you feel great, and you always nail that, and it's great to see that again with Echo. Cool. And it is great to see the duplicate ultimate. It is even, I never expected in a million years to see that in the game, honestly. I think there's going to be a lot of there'll be a lot of interesting play of the game clips, I think. Probably involving a lot of Reinhardt. What have you guys seen?
I think I mentioned to people, like, Reinhardt's like definitely the first obvious pick, because super tanky, and if you get some hammer swings on there, you heal really fast.
If you
can charge it,
if you get the ult straight away,
literally get it right away if you get a pin. But you'd be surprised. There's other really good picks, especially if you're good with heroes. Like in the tank lineup, Roadhog is really funny because he's got this other weird gameplay going on, because he gets ult off of self-healing.
Yes.
So you don't even have to hit anybody. If you just take a bunch of damage but you live, and then you heal, it's enough to give you your ult. So that's, I mean, his ult's not as impactful necessarily as Reinhardt's, but it's very easy to get. And then, but he also has an ultimate that has a duration. Any ults that have a duration, you're also eating in your Echo duration, so it's like less valuable in the sense of getting multiple. But he's also good. And Wrecking Ball is similar because you take Wrecking Ball.
I managed to get
and-
3.
yeah.
I got 3
Oh, really?
minefields in the,
It's actually
on
interesting
the
with
training
him.
range.
So you've seen this then, and this has always been this way, but it doesn't really ever come up. But unless you're in like custody or whatever. But if you ult when you already have your ult out there, it just replaces those mines with new mines. You can't stack like 3 or 4 minefields out.
But it's like a longer duration
But you
minefield.
can
It's
move
like
them
minefield.
around, right.
Most of them like, refresh the minefield,
exactly.
refresh it.
Or change where they
mad.
are.
Yeah.
But he's a character who can do pretty easy damage because you just roll in everywhere. It's kind of hard to avoid that. It's not a lot of damage,
Even
but it's
just
enough
fire,
to
just
roll.
the primary fire was charging the ultimate really fast.
Yeah. But you can just like slam into people. Yeah, slam into people, and even if you don't have your roll, you probably do right after you slam. So it's like
he's a safe target to ult then. So if you're flying around, you ult him, and then you just pile drive immediately down into the team. Ooh, that's spicy.
Reaper's another like crazy one. He's not a tank, but like
I didn't think about it.
because
Yeah.
you just fall on the people as Reaper. It's like 2 shots or something, and then you
Right.
ult, and it's just like. You basically, if you see it falling, because you can hear her, and she doesn't fall instantly, and there's like that, she has to transform, and you see, so there's a little bit of warning, like, oh my god, Reaper's about to fall on us, like, we gotta do something, like, hopefully we have a brig to stun or McCree, or like, something to do something about this, or like, spread out, or dodge, or put a barrier up or something. It's like, but like, also, it's just Reaper health pool, so it is totally possible to just kill him really, really fast.
Yeah, or you just defense matrix him, or like crowd controls. We were talking about earlier with Scott was playing Sombra, and he was just hacking me because that's the type of person he is. Every time I got like, so I get my ultimate, I duplicate. It's very obvious I've just used duplication, then I'm hacked, and I'm like, well, I can't do anything. I don't get to use my ult because it's almost like as soon as you use duplicate, expect that hero is going to immediately use its ultimate. Yeah, you've got like 5 seconds, probably even less than that, and then it's like ultimate. It's so cool.
So the focus, you focus that. Ideally, you focus the echo as quickly as possible.
Well, this is the thing. Do you have enough time to react? I mean,
do you mean do I have enough time to react?
Does anybody have enough time to react?
My reactions aren't as good as maybe other people.
Right.
But yeah, there's quite a bit of time where she has a call out and she transforms as big VFX, and she actually like floats in the air. She's not attackable during the transformation, but she's kind of phased out during that. But there's a lot of time where she's mostly in the air. That's why I'm calling out in the air. She does the cocoon thing. She's there, and then. Really shortly after she becomes
I haven't seen the. I've been playing it, so I've not been seeing the
the
animation.
third
So
person.
she's got invuln frames when she does it, and then she just sort of drops.
And then when going into and out of the
she has invuln frames coming out too. It's true.
Yeah.
So it's a little. It's hard to catch her coming out. That's why you can be really aggressive with it. That's why like the Ryan just charging the other team. It's like you always hate to see your Ryan do that.
Yeah.
But as Echo, you're like, okay, it might be worth it because like. If you charge in there, even if you die, she's gonna like pop out essentially and be full health again, and then her flight's up, so she can try to fly away really quick and try to get away.
She won't. She doesn't automatically go to full health, right? She goes back to whatever health she has.
We just changed that. I think. So
I think for us it went back to full health.
Okay. That was a recent change.
Yeah.
The Doomfist comparison. So you made the comparison to Doomfist with like using the ultimate to get out, like a lot of Doom players do, or you see them get like high ground, drop down with seismic slam and punch. Doomfist, after he uses his ultimate, he hits the ground and you've got that telegraph, you've got that period of time, you see him come down, there he is, Anna puts him to sleep. So you think we're going to see a lot of that when you get the transformation phase is happening. It's like, I'm going to get him ready, because crowd control is the counter to that.
If you can time it, it's a tough timing shot. It's a little easier with Doomfist, because he's right there, and I'm sure players are good enough to do it. It's going to be hard to
There's going to be some great clips, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
This is why I hope she gets played with Overwatch League, because you'll just see some crazy stuff, and then that instant swap to like Tracer, the casters won't be able to keep up. You're like, oh no, what's going on?
I think
it's going to be awesome.
I want to see a good Tracer player with her, because I mean, we have pretty good players internally, but I'm just sort of like imagining that the tier of player on the Overwatch League level playing Tracer with her, like it's pretty much like if you land one full mag on somebody, it's an ult. So you're like bomb. It's like if no one stops you from doing that or anyway, or if they're not hitting a barrier, like you're just gonna win basically. Like somebody needs to stop you from doing that.
It's gonna be awesome. All right, guys, thank you. It's been a great chat.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Echo's awesome as well. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Glad to hear that.